All right, guys, I'm Hasan Piker, and I'm a host on the TYT Network. I host entertainment and pop culture news, and today I'm going to give you my take on why I think the beloved movie of all time, Rocky, sucks. Now, before I start this review, I'm going to mention this again. These are my opinions. These aren't professional opinions. This is just my take. I watched this movie for the first time ever as a 23-year-old foreign Turkish man. And this is one of those classic movies that I had never seen my entire life. I'd seen snippets of it. I thought I knew enough about the movie. It was so ingrained into popular culture that I usually lied about watching the movie. And boy, was I wrong when I thought I knew everything I had to know about Rocky. Now, my friend that wanted me to watch this was actually telling me, do not watch Rocky 1 first. Let's go into it with like an easier, more palatable Rocky, like Rocky 4. And I said, no, I'm absolutely going to watch this. This is that classic movie. I'm going to understand what it's all about. And I think he was right, because with my current sensibilities as a millennial watching this movie, I thought, wow, this movie's garbage. I don't care how you feel about this. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hatred for it. But I hope you can understand my take after I'm done explaining why I don't really appreciate Rocky and what I appreciate Rocky for. Rocky, for those of you who do not know, is a 1976 American sports drama that follows the life of Rocky Balboa, who is a mentally challenged, third-rate boxer that is just all around terrible at boxing and has a really hard time speaking. And I talk about him having a hard time speaking because I guess that was a current trend in that era, where you have celebrities like Sylvester Stallone who has a hard time speaking. You have Arnold Schwarzenegger. You have Jean-Claude Van Damme. All these beefcakes that look great in front of the camera, but can't really speak at all, being like these massive, top-billed, most famous, most popular actors in that era. I don't know why America decided, hey, we're going to have people that don't really know how to speak, star in our greatest movies. But they decided on that, and everyone loved it. It's not for me. I'm not reviewing this movie back in 1976. I'm reviewing this movie in 2016. I watched it last year as a 23-year-old. So obviously, it's a little different for me as a first-time viewer who understands all the concepts that Rocky brought to the table and has appreciated that as an enthusiast for a very long time. Basically, it's just a really, really long movie that goes on at an alarmingly crawling pace. Like, it's just so long. And I understand movies back then were just like that. There was a different way of storytelling. And we can talk about the ADD generation and the short attention span that we have now that we have a shorter attention span than goldfish. But I don't want to watch a Michael Bay movie. I understand. I'm not expecting to watch the new Transformers when I'm watching a classic movie like Rocky. But I wanted it to run a little bit faster than it did and not have essentially the goods in the really neatly packaged up into the last 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, and then watch a 3-hour movie of Rocky going through the motions of going through the motions and trying to operate as a human being in a Philadelphia suburb. And then there's the really weird relationship with Adrian and Rocky. Adrian is a pet shop attendant who's shy and timid, and Rocky's this big burly guy who doesn't really know how to speak English that well. And they have this crazy relationship where essentially Rocky ends up raping Adrian the first time they ever get together alone. And that might have been acceptable back then when Rocky was like, hey, you can't leave, and he forced Adrian to stay there. But let's call a spade, and let's call what Rocky did to Adrian at least kidnapping, if not rape, when he basically shut the door and, pushed her into a corner and said, we're doing this, Adrian, whether you like it or not, it's happening. And your brother's a piece of shit and he hates you, so it doesn't really matter. You have really no one to save you here. I'm a big burly man. I'm going to take advantage of you. I'm not saying change the movie at all. I'm not. It bothered me. I didn't like it. Paulie's just overall terrible as a character. I couldn't watch him at all. I'm not saying that because he's ugly. I actually appreciate that there were real people in this movie, and that was possibly due to the fact that the budget was so minimal. The story of how Rocky came to be is actually the most amazing part of it. I mean, it got rejected by studio after studio. Everyone, and then finally people were like, this is a great script, Sylvester. You just can't act. So you can't star in this. If you want to star in this, we're not going to give you a lot of money. And Rocky was like, no, I'll never live this down if I allow someone else to star in this movie. And he was right. He took a bet. The studios took a bet, and they produced this for $1 million, and it made $225 million. That is a studio exec's wet dream, okay? It won 3 Oscars. I mean, they took the biggest bet on Sylvester Stallone, an unknown actor with a script, and then it came out to be 6 more Rocky movies. I mean, it's an American franchise that everyone loves and appreciates, with the exception of myself, of course. And I get that. The story of how the movie came to be, the cultivation of it, is fantastic. But the Rocky story itself is difficult for me to watch. And that's the thing. Rocky's backstory is genuinely interesting. The movie itself is not that interesting or not that watchable if you're going to watch it as a 24-year-old for the first time ever. And for that reason, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hatred for this, I'm going to have to give Rocky a 5 out of 10. I'm Hasan Piker, and I'm waiting for your comments.